Yeah, so the Millionaire Next Door, when it came out, I was kind of in the process of figuring it all out, read it, and basically said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to control my expenses, I'm going to live within my means, and I'm going to be the millionaire next door.
This show is dedicated to helping you strengthen your family tree and live financially free. Thank you for being here, everybody. We have an excellent guest on the show today. John from ESI Money is here to talk to us about how we can earn, save, and invest our way to financial independence. John is a former marketing executive, a real estate investor, and now the owner of Rockstar Finance. If you don't know what Rockstar Finance is, check it out. You'll really, really like it. He's built up his net worth to the multi-million-dollar level through the principles we're going to be talking about on this show today. He's also a family man. He's got 2 kids, and he's been married to his wife for, I think, over 20 years. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but welcome to the show, John. How's it going?
Hey, Andy, how are you doing? It's good to be here.
I'm great. It's really great to have you here. ESI. So ESI stands for Earn, Save and Invest, right?
You are right, yes.
Excellent. Well, I thought that'd be kind of cool if we walked through some of those principles that you've been talking about for so long on your blog and inspiring people about Earn, Save, and Invest, and help people to understand how you've reached financial independence and your status as a multimillionaire. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the earn side of things.
Okay.
Why is someone's career one of the most important tools in the wealth building box for that earn side of things?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't think about this, but there's really 2 reasons why it's one of the most important things. First of all, for the vast majority of people, probably 95% of people, your career is your biggest financial asset. If you look over the lifespan of a 40, 45, 50-year career and add up what that is worth, I mean, it's worth millions of dollars, right? Now, most people don't think of it that way, but it really is. It just add up the numbers. So that's the first reason why. The second reason why is if you take the right steps, you can make those $2 or $3 million that your career is worth millions more by actively managing your career, trying to grow it, by being intentional about it growing it instead of just kind of letting it happen to you. So with those 2 things, career can be a big part of the earning equation for most people.
Excellent. Well, could you give us a little bit of background on, I know it's a lot to say, but a little bit of background on your career path when you were working before you were retired or financially independent. What did you do, and then how did you build yourself up to increasing your salary throughout those years?
Yeah, well, let me say, first of all, I learned what I'm going to share all kind of by school of hard knocks. So, and it took me a long time to figure it out. So someone starting today would have a big advantage because they could put these principles into practice right away versus took me sometimes 20 years to learn them. But I went to, I got an undergraduate degree in business and economics and then got an MBA and worked all the way through the corporate field in marketing and kind of progressed my way up in the marketing field with different companies and changing from company to company, job to job within companies, then to eventually became the president of a $100 million company, I use the principles that I talk about on my website. The main ones, I have 7 of them, and we probably won't have time to go through all of them. But the first 2 are really the most important because if you get them right, you can get probably about 80% of the benefit of growing your career. The first one is I listed as overperforming or doing a good job, people would call it. But there's a way of doing that can pretty much guarantee your success, and it involves talking with your boss and finding out what he or she expects you to do. Generally, the terminology most companies use is they have expectations or you meet expectations when you get your review. So what are those expectations? Get them down in writing, get them quantified, and then now you know exactly what they expect. Now do more than they expect, because people who do more than what's expected get paid more than what average people get paid. And you do that over and over throughout your career. You overperform expectations. You're going to earn a lot of money in the lifetime of your career. The second thing is you want to be likable. that's kind of controversial to say a little bit, but studies will show that people who are likable get promoted almost as much as people who overperform. So that's just the way it is. People like to promote the people that they like. Yeah. And you don't have to be, you don't have to be a backslapper. You don't have to be a good old boy or anything like that. But if you simply treat other people like you want to be treated, and treat them, think about the other person first, that'll go a long way to being likable, and it will have a big impact on your career and your earnings.
Very cool. So those were the main two for you that were key?
Right. Yes. Those are. I have 7, but those are the 2 that if somebody does them, they'll get the vast majority of the benefits.
Excellent. Well, I'll definitely link to that article for the 7 in the show notes. But those are 2 really good points. One thing that you mentioned there is that you had gone to several different companies, or almost 10 different companies, right, throughout your career. Is that correct?
Yeah. When I say them out to people, they're like, "Wow, did you hold a job for more than 3 months?"
Let's talk about that though, because some people maybe will stick around too long and then not get the income that they need or the salary that they need. At what point did you decide within these? I mean, obviously, it was probably different for each of these places you were at, but at what point was it necessary for you to say, hey, I got to make a move in order for this to be worth it or for my income to increase?
Yeah, it was different in pretty much every situation. I mean, sometimes it would be simply because it wasn't challenging, and it wasn't necessarily a income thing, but it was more like I'm just not very challenged. I can do more. Sometimes there was no room to progress up the organization because the 2 guys ahead of me they were family. It was a family business, and they owned the company, and I wasn't going to pass them up. So it kind of depended. But I invested a lot of extra time and effort early on in my career, and we moved a few times early on in my career until we got to the point where we had kids, and I made a choice at that point in time to not be as aggressive with my career because I wanted to trade that for the time that I would have at home. So I found a job that still paid very well, but the annual increases weren't that high. But I was off work every day by 5 p.m. I didn't work weekends at all. I didn't travel very much. I was at every event that my kids had. I was the coach for my son's basketball team and soccer teams. So that was a trade-off that I thought was well worth the investment.
That's perfect. That's much better than any income you can earn, obviously, the time with your family. Yes. That's perfect. Very cool. Well, we were on this earn section. So outside of your day job, you talk about on your site, starting a side business can be a way to increase your income. If somebody's just getting started and they are, they're working at a job and they like their job, but they're also looking for sort of another outlet, where's the best place to start if you want to try to, get into a side business?
Yeah, so I do recommend having a side hustle because it can really speed up your path to financial independence. Because if you have that, you don't have to save as much, right? You can retire earlier. You can live off part of your savings and part of your side hustle because your side hustle goes with you when you retire. So I would start with, first of all, finding something that you can enjoy and you can do for a long time. So, it's got to be something that you like and you want to do it and it's not a drag. Otherwise, it's just as bad as a job you don't like, right? Mm-hmm. It's just creating a side hustle you don't like now. You also have to find something that people are willing to pay you for, obviously, or it's not going to be worth it, and that you can then ultimately make a profit at, that they'll pay you at a rate that will cover your expenses and more than that. And that could be a lot of things. Personally, I did freelance writing back in the day when magazines were, big then. Magazines are kind of dying off these days, but they used to hire freelance writers, and I paid off my mortgage by writing freelance articles at night, after my family went to bed. And then that kind of morphed into blogging. So I've done that for almost, probably it's going on 13 years now. My son and I were soccer referees for a while. That was his main job, and I kind of came along for the ride. So we did that over the course of time. And then I got into real estate, and that was, you consider that either an investment or a side hustle, either one. But that's been pretty profitable as well.
That's great. That's great. I like how you found a couple hours extra in your week or however long it would take you to do one article for freelance writing and then sort of built that up into a blogging business and then moving on from there, but being able to pay off your mortgage with it. That's very incredible. Very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of late nights, and my wife was my editor, which, when somebody edits your work, you're always like, how dare you change a word, But we lived through that, and we ended up paying off our mortgage then.
That's incredible. Very cool. Well, you on the earn side, you also discuss credit card rewards as a way to, enjoy your life a little bit more and earn some more. Obviously, can be a slippery slope with credit cards. You got to make sure you're responsible with them. But
yes.
tell us how you've done that with credit card rewards.
So so I agree with you 100%. We don't have any balances. We pay them off every month. We've never had any fees with our credit cards, but we have kind of several, 5 to 7 main cards that we use, and we go with cash back. I have tried travel hacking with points, but it's too much effort for me at this point in my life, and I'm retired, so I'd rather have the time than the effort I have to put into it. I don't need to save the money. But between bonuses and cash back and looking for ways, basically just charging everything you can with the right card, where you can earn, a minimum of 2%. Is my lowest, but up to 5%, and then you get the bonuses. You earn 20% in some cases. I made $4,000 last year, which is not bad, right?
Wow.
Now we had a lot of expenses, but my daughter's in college, and her college happens to let us pay for tuition with a credit card that earns 2% cash back, and there's no fee for doing that. So why wouldn't we do it, right? So we had an extra, even on a regular year, we're still probably going to earn $1,500 to $2,000 just by using the right cards, buying things we'd normally buy.
That's incredible. And that $4,000, that's tax free, right?
It is, yeah. It's a reward. It's not any sort of earnings. So yeah, it is tax free.
That's something that people don't think about too with the cards. I mean, for you to be able to earn that much without the taxes, that's a big deal. Very cool.
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, we got to be responsible about it. Pay it off every month. Track your money. I think this is more of a, advanced strategy for those folks that are really into making sure they know what's happening with their finances. But obviously, it can take advantage of that. It's interesting that you talk about the cash back versus the travel rewards, because there is a lot of work with that. I started to dabble with that this year, and it's a lot of homework, and I mean, it can pay off.
Key part, the thing I got stuck at was how you spend the points, right? There's like a gazillion ways to spend them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the way to maximize them? And that's the part that for me that, I'm like, I don't know. This just seems like it's a lot of work in time, right? For not as much payoff as I had hoped it would be.
Absolutely. A lot of work. Okay, well, cool. So we hit on earn a little bit there, obviously through your income through your day job, building your career, building your wealth, starting a side business that you feel passionate about, not just something that is just something to do. You want to feel passionate about it. You want to make sure people will actually pay you for it. And then the credit card rewards side of things, which is just a nice little perk for money you're spending anyway. So
yes.
That's the earn side of things. So let's talk about save. So a lot of people consider that that high income of what you're talking about as the barometer of being wealthy, but they don't really factor in the saving side of things. So why do you feel like saving as important a part of the wealth building process for you?
Well, because it really just boils down to the fact that you can spend it all no matter how much you make. I mean, that's that simple. We've seen celebrities and athletes and all sorts of people who have made tens of millions of dollars go bankrupt because you can spend it all. I mean, even if you have a high income, it can all go away if you don't control yourself. So you have to be able to have some self-control, and you have to save no matter what your income is. So that's why it's a vital part of the equation.
Absolutely. And did you have, as you were, doing your savings throughout your life, did you guys have a barometer of a savings percentage that you tried to hit, or anything like that?
We didn't have a savings goal per se. Our income was fairly high, so we fully funded my 401k for every year that we were available to do it. Every year that I had a 401k, and then we saved in addition to that. And over the course of 20 years, I went back and looked at our numbers, and we track everything in Quicken, so I could do this. Our savings was 36% of our gross income over those 20 years that I looked at it. So by today's standards, 36% sounds low because people saving 50% or 70% of their income. This is gross income too, by the way. It's not net income. So the 36% would be a lot higher if I was looking at net income. But it was enough, and it was a substantial amount because of our income was so high.
Well, it might sound low in the Rockstar Finance Forum, but compared to the rest of the world, man, I think that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So you said you were fully funding the 401k. Did you take advantage of Roth IRAs or HSAs, anything like that too, while you were saving?
We did have an HSA through our company, yeah. So it was a really nice deal because our company converted from traditional medical insurance to a high deductible plan, and they said, we're going to put $4,000 every year into your HSA for you. Wow. So, and we don't spend that much. We were a pretty healthy family, so it just really racked up. I mean, it was a great benefit for that company. I didn't do Roth. I can't remember when the Roth IRA came around. So I didn't do it. I saved into just a regular taxable account with my excess, which then I dipped into that fund when I bought my real estate. So it all worked out because it was pretty accessible.
Well, very cool. Well, that's a good segue to the I section here of investing. You talked about real estate and utilizing like a brokerage account. So what are the specific ways that you built wealth while you were continuing your life over the past couple of decades? Yeah,
so two main ways. One is we bought index funds early, often, as much as we could during the crash of 2008, 9, 10, that range. We plowed every extra dollar we could find into them. Like as the market was dropping, I mean, there were some nerve-wracking days. I'm thinking, do I really believe this? Because this better work out. Because it would go down. I would throw in $15,000, and then it would go down big again the next day, and the next day, and then I'd throw in another 15, and it'd still go down. It'd go down. I'm like, wow, I hope this is right. Now, obviously, 8 years later, it worked out really well for us. So index funds was the first thing. Second thing was real estate investing. About that time when the market was down and everybody was kind of panicking, real estate was down too. I got into real estate investing and bought several units in Michigan, really not at the bottom of the market, but kind of like as the market was starting to come back up. So before the run up that we've seen in the past, 5 to 6 years.
That's cool. And then, what was the first real estate investment that you snapped? Was that in the Grand Rapids area, like you said?
Yeah. So I lived in Grand Rapids, and the very first one. So the first one that I actually had a contract accepted on was sold out from under me. So imagine this. I'm like a new investor. I do have a mentor, and he's taking me through all this. But I'm like, okay, we're going to buy this duplex. We put a bid on it, and like he calls me a week later and said, well, the guy sold it to somebody else. And I'm like, well, how does that happen? I have a contract on it. And basically the guy just wasn't very scrupulous. He just, he got a better offer somehow and he sold it. And I was like, oh man, this real estate stuff is crazy. Maybe I shouldn't do it. But we persevered. And so my first purchase was like a 1920s home in northern Grand Rapids, Michigan. It had been abandoned. It looked like, something you'd see on a horror movie. I mean, it was just really, it was bad. Like, like the glass in the door was broken, and, there weren't birds flying around inside, but they probably had been at some point. And we bought it. It was a 4-bedroom house, and it was strong. It was strong structurally, and it had an outbuilding that had 3 bedrooms. So it was just 2 different units on the same property, and so we bought it. The government owned it at that point in time, so we bought it from them. And then we put in, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000 into it. That was our plan. We'd always buy kind of a fixer-upper, and we would put a boatload of money into it, and it would look awesome. And then we would rent it accordingly, much more than what it would have rented if we hadn't put the money into it. So that was the very first one, and then from there I got another one a few months later, and then another one maybe 7 months later. And some of these were buildings, so some of them had multiple units within the building. And then we just did the same thing. We as tenants would their lease would come up. We would say, we're going to remodel your apartment. It's going to look like this, and have new appliances, and new paint, and new flooring, everything. But the rent is going to go from $500 a month to $700 a month. And most of them at that point didn't stick around, but we really refurbished those places from kind of a lower, I don't know, I call it like a C property. If you've ever heard people talk about A, B, and C property. So if like a C property, it was in a B location, but it was a C property the way it had been maintained. We turned it into a B plus property in a B location.
That's great. And those C properties that you were buying, then what was like the typical price range for that, just to give everybody an idea?
Well, the good thing is it's in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? So the prices are very affordable. So I bought one of my properties, the one I liked the best. It has 2 buildings, and they each have 4 units, so 8 units total in a shared parking lot. And we bought it for like $250,000 or something like that, and then put another $50,000 in, or maybe a little more than that. So that's really, really affordable, because A is in Grand Rapids, and B, it was kind of at the low point of the real estate market. So those two things helped.
And you said that this, what time of year was this? This was in early 2000s, or is this around the 08 time frame?
No, we bought like in 2012.
2012, okay.
Yeah, 13, like in that range, yeah. So like I said, it just was coming out of the, it was still, people were still kind of shell shocked, but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't like right in the middle of everything.
Right. So around 250 in 2012, and then where would something like that be nowadays? I mean, obviously there's been an increase in the
I had all of them priced out because my management company also sells real estate, so they're always asking people, does anybody want to sell their properties? And they've gone up by about 50%, and that was about a year or 2 ago, so they're probably even more than that, because they also, in addition, my management company will send me offers and say, hey, there's this guy's selling, and the price, I'm like, are you crazy? I don't know what's going on there, but he's like, well, this property will be gone in 2 days if you don't buy it. And I'm like, there's no way. I couldn't get the return I wanted out of it. But real estate properties values have gone up dramatically there, and a lot across the country, in a lot of cities.
Absolutely. And then when you bought this, house for $250, or this building for $250, do you like to buy in cash? Do you like to leverage? What's your strategy?
I bought in cash. Yeah. Nice. So I don't like debt. We paid off our mortgage. I mentioned that earlier, and we paid off our credit card. We haven't had any debt for almost 25 years now, pretty much our entire marriage. I bought in cash, and I know you can earn a higher return, by leveraging these, but I don't want to really deal with that. I feel it's just a personal preference for me.
What about living debt free makes you happy?
There's no stress. You're free. You're totally free from anybody. You don't have to worry about the bank. You can really do a lot with your finances when you don't have a mortgage. Imagine that. That's the biggest thing that most people spend their money on is their mortgage. Imagine for people listening out there, if that was taken out of your budget and you didn't have to pay for it. Imagine the opportunities you would have to, save and to give and to, do awesome things with the money that would be remaining. It's just, it's that much better. So we always bought a house. We started buying a house. And these are very nice houses too. I'm not like saying we lived in a shack or anything by any stretch. We lived in nice homes that were, 2,500 square feet. They're big. Most people would say that they were big. They were nice and new in most cases. But we lived in low-cost markets, and we bought houses that were, substantially below what our income said we could buy. And then we paid the first one off. It took us a few years. I worked at that side hustle I talked about in order to make it happen. And then once we paid that first one off, when we moved, we would roll over all the money from that one to the next one, and roll over the money from that one to the next one, and on and on. And we just never had a mortgage from there on out.
We'll be back to the show in just a moment. 64% of Americans with children under 18 have no end-of-life documents in place, including a will. That is just too many people, in my opinion, that are leaving their children's future up to chance. Time and money are usually the biggest excuses for not completing your last will and testament. Tomorrow is taking care of both of those excuses today. Tomorrow's new simple app-based system helps you create your legal will for free. You download the app, you fill out your information and your end-of-life plans, and voila! You've got your family will taken care of quickly and easily. No more excuses, no more delays. Protect your family today with Tomorrow. Visit tomorrow.me/Andy and get your legal will made today for free. That's tomorrow.me/Andy. Are you a person that cares as much about your health as you do about your wealth? I have the perfect partner for you, everybody. Health IQ. Health IQ is an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, and even vegetarians get lower rates on their life insurance. Since physically active people have a 34% lower risk of all-cause mortality compared to the inactive folks, it makes sense. The more active you are, the healthier you are. It's just like saving money on your car insurance for being a good driver. Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. If you qualify, Health IQ can save you up to 33% on your life insurance. That is a sizable chunk of change, my friends. To see if you qualify and to support this show, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/MKM or mention the promo code MKM when you talk to your Health IQ agent. Let's jump back into our interview. Very cool. And for that first property, when you bought it in cash, how long did it take you to save up that amount of money? Was it a lot easier because you guys didn't have a mortgage at that point?
Well, so the first one we paid off. Oh, you mean the rental property?
Yeah, the rental property. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So so what had happened at that point, because we didn't have a mortgage and we were and our income had grown and grown and grown by that time through the years. We had a big cushion. So we were accumulating cash. So I ended up buying 3 properties with a total of 14 different units on them. The first 2, I think I bought or at least the first 1.5, let's say, I bought with cash that I just had available. So basically my emergency fund had just ballooned to a place that I was like, okay, I knew I was going to buy real estate at some point, so I'm just going to let it accumulate and I'm going to pay cash. For the second, for the last one and maybe the half, I did sell some index funds in order to fund part of the purchases of those.
Excellent. Okay. Well, great. Well, and then you said your income had grown substantially to that point. Was your wife also working at this at the same time?
No, she was not. So she was, when we got married, she was an audiologist. So she tested hearing and was working in a doctor's office. But when we had kids, she decided to stay home, and our kids were homeschooled all during their school career. So all the way from kindergarten to high school. So she stayed home doing that, and I was working on my career.
That's great. Excellent. And then obviously with the finances, it sounds like you're based on you having a blog and purchasing Rockstar Finance, you're into the finances and talking about it.
I'm into it, yes.
So
yes, I am.
How does your wife fall on that side of the fence? Is she into it as much as you are?
No,
or is she...
no, she's not. No, she'd be like, I tell her that like, oh, I'm going to go to this thing called FinCon, and I'm going to meet all these people that write about money online. It's going to be great. And she's like, rolling her eyes, going, okay, whatever, It's just like, she's just thinking like, you're meeting people on the internet and you're going to go see them in person. That sounds kind of strange, but okay, if you think it's a good idea.
That's great. Well, I mean, obviously she's enjoyed the outcomes of your interest in money, right?
Yes.
Very cool. So, and you have a couple kids, you said. Now they're in college, is that right?
So one of them is in college, and she's studying criminal justice and wants to work in some anti-terrorism capacity. So we'll see what happens to her. And then my son is still at home. He's working, and he's trying to decide what he wants to do with his life while he's still working here, at the same time.
Excellent. So have you spent some time with them as they grew up, trying to introduce them to money and finances and smart ways of doing it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends on what you talk to them about based on what they're able to handle. So, at the beginning when they were getting allowances, you're talking about, saving some and spending some and giving some. And then as they get older, you have, more and more, conversations that are deeper about, how money works. And like this year, we just got done doing our taxes, and we are still, we have a CPA that does our taxes, and the CPA does the kids' taxes too, but they get more involved every year. They see, what is involved with even just getting everything assembled to send to the CPA for your taxes, and how much you get back and how it kind of works, and should you get any money back and all that sort of stuff. So we have those conversations, all along the way, and they obviously know that I write about money. So, but there's also like the dad factor, like, oh, dad, there's that sort of, So they all they're going to have to make their own decisions, and the biggest concern that I have, and my wife and I have talked about this, is, our kids have never seen us struggle financially, and they've never had to live through financial struggle like I did when I was a kid, and like my wife did when she was a kid. We lived through that because our parents were in certain situations where, there were rough times. And the character that you have and the way you manage money as a result of that is different than if you grow up in a environment where there's never that issue. There's never a problem. You're well off. You're living in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. You're taking trips, around the world in different places. So we wonder how that will impact our kids, and you don't know until they live their lives. So, but it's something that we continually talk about, and we talk about with them about managing money and being responsible with what they have. That's
really interesting. So you had grown up in an environment where money wasn't abundant, but that made you want to give your family and yourself a rich life.
Yes.
So now you have children that have grown up with a lot, and your struggle is to how do we not make this a cycle, right? How do we not go back, right?
Yes.
So what are some of those conversations, I guess, that you're having to keep that knowledge going? And I know you get the dad eye roll sometimes, but I guess that's a very interesting topic, I guess.
Yeah, most of it centers around spending at this point in time, because we have lived in an environment where we've kind of been in abundance. Our kids buy a lot of stuff. My son is a collector of shoes, like the Jordans and the LeBrons and the this and that, and I guess that's a thing nowadays. The guys do. They collect basketball shoes. So he spends a lot of money on those. My daughter has earned a lot because we've given her financial incentives to do that. So she's made the right choices there. She's made the right choices about college and where to go and how much to spend and all that. But she likes to buy nice things too. So a lot of our conversations now center around spending, and that that there's going to be a day when the spending is going to have to be ratcheted back because you're going to be on your own. You're going to be on a fixed income of some sort, and you're going to have to manage a lot more bills than you're managing now. Mm-hmm. So they're at the point where they're being transitioned into the fact that, like, oh, somebody pays for us to live here, and there's like heat. There's heat in the house that somebody has to pay for, and the lights and the food in the refrigerator. I have to actually go get that and give people money for that, and stuff like that that's been taken for granted because it's always been there. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how we're transitioning now, and continue to work with them on, here's how much you spend, here's how much you earn, and then of that you want to save a portion of it and then spend the rest of it. But you got to control your spending. You just can't spend first and then whatever's left save, or you'll never get to saving.
Well, that's good. That's good. I remember being 22 and getting my first house, and then starting to get those bills: the electric bill, the water bill, the heat bill.
Yeah, like, whoa, what is this thing?
I have to pay this too?
Yes.
Well, cool. Well, that's great. Well, best of luck with those continued conversations with your family, for sure.
You.
So I wanted to take just a quick second to talk about financial independence. Obviously, this is a big term that you hear a lot, and this is essentially when you've got enough money to not have to work at a day job all day long, or have what do they say, 25 times your annual expenses in order to live your life and enjoy yourself.
Yes.
So when did you hit that point throughout this journey where you said, hey, I'm good working at my career, I'm all done with that, I want to try this financial independence thing?
Yeah, so I retired. So the answer to when I jumped out of the career is at 52 in 2016. But the answer to when I became financially independent is I'd probably have to go back and look, but probably sometime in my 40s, probably my early 40s. But back then, there weren't the conversations about being financially independent that there are today. There wasn't, Mr. Money Mustache wasn't around. And the people, that line of thinking was, even the 4% rule was not as nearly as prominent. In fact, I don't even know when the 4% rule came around, but it's been, the past few years, it's been talked about way more than, back when I was blogging in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 6, 7. There were no conversations about the 4% rule, and no one was retiring in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever. In my day, if somebody retired at 60, that was early retirement, and that's just that's based on the people that went before me. So that was kind of my goal, and eventually one day I just kind of woke up and put 2 and 2 together and said, I'm financially independent now. I've been for a long time. I'm going to retire. I live in Colorado. It's great to live here. I'm going to get out and enjoy my life while I still can.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, do you think if this conversation was as prevalent as it is today, that you would have retired earlier than you did?
Yes, I think I would have. Yes, and that's, I think, the number one issue. I get people writing me, regularly, maybe once every few weeks or so. I'll get somebody send me an email going, I've got $5 million and I don't know if I have enough to retire. Can you help me? I'm like, dude, you have enough to retire, believe me. Unless it's like all locked up in a somewhere where you can't get to it, or you live on a Caribbean island that you have to maintain yourself. With any sort of reasonable expenses, you have more than enough to retire right now. Right. But people are they're locked into should I do it? I don't know. So that's the number one, I would say, mistake that people make, and is the number one mistake I made, is waiting too long. I waited too long. So I would definitely, if I had to do it all over again, would have retired earlier.
Well, you're probably inspired by a lot of the conversations that are happening on Rockstar Finance. So is that is that a reason that you wanted to buy that site?
Well, for me, you have to find something to do. The whole retirement conversation, while it's been shifting from, retire at 65 to retire, much earlier than that, it's also been shifting from, it used to be when you retired, you either played golf or you bowled or you whatever. You kind of like sailed into the sunset and that was it. Now it's more like, well, what do you want to do? And what you want to do could be a business of your own. It could be traveling. It could be, any number of things. And for me, and you have to have something in there anyway to keep you sharp, or else, if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. So Rockstar Finance for me was kind of filled a couple different niches. It kept me, it's exciting to work on a business like that. It keeps me sharp. I had an abundance. I was starting to pile up cash again because the real estate market is just so crazy. I don't think I'll probably buy any more real estate unless something happens dramatically with the prices. So I needed something I had all this cash that was earning like 1%. That's about all you can get on your cash these days. So I was like, okay, I want to take this money that's earning 1% and I want to earn, 20% or 40% or 50% on. And so a business is one way you can do that. And Rockstar Finance was the reason, that's one of the reasons I bought Rockstar Finance, is because it also has a good return on it.
Excellent. And you're passionate about the topic as well, obviously.
I am, yeah. So I'm already in the niche. I like it. I know a lot of people. It helps me, in addition to make money, helps me help a lot of people that deserve it and are having a tough time finding the traffic that they need for their site. So it has a lot of benefits.
Excellent. Well, it's an incredible website. If you guys do not know about what Rockstar Finance is, check it out. I'll definitely put it in the show notes. John, before we conclude, you've had a lot of success in your career and in your post-career and this financial independence lifestyle you're living. Surely there was some mistakes along the way. What's one piece of financial advice that you'd give yourself to your younger self as you were going through this life so far?
Yeah. So if I had to do it all over again, I would start saving sooner. It took me, by the time I got out of graduate school, I was 24, and it took me until I met my wife and we got married, which was a few years after that, until we started really saving aggressively. So I lost, 5 years, let's say, of saving, which, those 5 years, if you took what I had now and tacked on 5 more years of compounding, would be worth a lot of money. So that was my biggest mistake, was just I should have started saving, from the get-go.
Excellent. Well, obviously, if we're catching people earlier in their 20s on the show,
that's right.
Maybe we can get them started.
And that's one of the things I'm talking to my kids about is like, if you guys start saving now, this money's going to be worth this when you're my age. And that's why I get the, oh, Dad, okay,
That's because they since they have it right now, right? It might be when they're 22 and they don't have it, they're going to be like, okay, now I need that money.
Yes.
Cool. And as you were going through this financial independence path right here, or reaching where you are, was there a book that kind of influenced you that said, hey, this is really going to amp things up for me?
Yeah, so The Millionaire Next Door, when it came out, I was kind of in the process of figuring it all out, read it, and basically said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to control my expenses. I'm going to live within my means, and I'm going to be the millionaire next door. So it was by far the one book that's influenced me financially more than any other.
I love that one too. It's a great mindset shift. Or if people are thinking rich means something in one way, this is a book will help you to understand that myth is a myth.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, you're the millionaire next door. I love it. Very cool. So where's the best place people can follow you and learn more about the ESI way of life?
Yeah, well, my 2 websites are esimoney.com is one, and then rockstarfinance.com is the other. And as far as social media, I spend most of my time on Twitter at ESI Money blog. So I post there frequently and I'm around quite often.
Excellent. Yeah, he's got some great articles, everybody. So check him out. He's been freelance writing forever, and now he's been blogging forever. So that's great, man. Very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, John. I really appreciate you jumping in and having some conversations about this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So much to learn from that conversation with John. Earning, saving, investing, navigating the wealth legacy for your children, and even how small business fits into the picture overall. Here are some of the main takeaways that stuck with me most from my conversation with John. Number 1, grow your career and your income. Saving is important, investing is important, but I do not think that I spend nearly enough time discussing how growing our careers can be one of the best ways to build our wealth. We can all increase our salaries and receive promotions by focusing on exceeding expectations and being likable. Great points by John. It seems simple, but if we focus ourselves in those areas, it can really make a big difference. And if you're at a company that's like a toxic environment and you don't really see an opportunity to grow there, take a look around and find somewhere new to go. You are in control of your career. Number 2, trade income for time freedom. John mentioned that he got to a point in his career where he built up enough of a cushion of cash that he was able to take on a more convenient and lower paying job that allowed him to have more time with his family. This is right up my alley. When you have debt freedom, or a large emergency fund, or financial independence in general, these things can allow you to make these important moves. And time freedom, just the concept of having time freedom is so important for our family lives and for our marriages, really. So, love that one. Number 3, debt-free real estate can work. It works. John said he's been debt-free for 25 years, and he purchased all of his rentals with cash. He's experienced less stress, less worry, and more control. I'm sure it took him a lot more time to save up for those properties instead of getting on a mortgage, but in the end, it sounds worth it to me. Nicole and I are shooting for our first rental by the end of the year, and we're trying to do the cash route as well. we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It might be December of 2019, but we'll see how much we can earn and save to get there. But yeah, we'll get there when we get there. It's all good. So let's recap those takeaways. Number 1, grow your career and your income. Number 2, trade income for time freedom when you've got that, that cushion. And number 3, debt-free real estate works. I am so thankful to have this platform, this podcast. I'm privileged to learn really from some of the most successful people out there. And it sure helps give me motivation. It boosts my motivation level when the people that we're speaking to on the show are family-focused folks that I can relate to. John absolutely crushed the wealth building game for his family. Now I'm inspired to do the same. Who's with me? Now it's time to announce the Money Master of the Week. Jenny from Florida called in to share a recent debt-crushing victory. Take it away, Jenny.
Hi, my name is Jenny from Cape Coral, Florida, and I just wanted to share a story. My husband and I started out living quote-unquote normal lives, a little bit of debt, but we were able to pay our bills. Well, we just did not have a plan. And life, like it likes to do, threw us a few curveballs, and through some medical issues and infertility, we were left facing $100,000 in medical bills and over $120,000 in debt overall. The positive was that we were pregnant with my baby girl, which was the plan. But we knew that we couldn't bring her into the world with all of this debt. So we gave ourselves a timeline of 24 months and we came up with a plan. We downsized our house, sold a few things, and came up with a written budget. That's most important. Basically just cut out anything that didn't add value to our lives, anything that didn't bring us true happiness. Through that and some creative side hustles, we were actually able to beat our original deadline and pay that $120,000 off in less than 12 months before the baby was even born. Fast forward to our original deadline, 24 months, and we've now gone from that 120 in debt to a net worth in the 6 figures somewhere. Through our journey, we've just been able to do more of what we love and value. Like we spend more time with our daughter, we travel, we do things that make us truly happy, and we just live this intentional plan, and it allows us to have this lifestyle without the deprivation that I thought would come with budgeting and frugality. You can hear more of our story and hopefully pick up some tips along the way at livinglifelovingus.com.
$120,000 clobbered in under 12 months. That is incredible. Jenny and her husband knew they wanted to be parents, and through all the obstacles they faced, they did it. They accomplished it. They wanted to live a debt-free life, and they did it. Was it a difficult mountain to climb? I am sure of it, but they did it anyway. They partnered together. They used her nurse salary, his firefighter salary, sold a lot of their stuff, and worked side gigs like crazy. I will include the link to their article in the show notes so you guys can learn a little bit more about this couple. But now they've started their lives with their little girl with no debt. In my opinion, family is the best debt destruction motivator out there. Inspiring. If you want to learn more about the details of Jenny's story and learn how you can crush debt like she did, go to livinglifelovingus.com. Jenny, thank you so much for reaching out to me, and congratulations for being our Money Master of the Week. Do you have a recent financial victory that you want to share on the show? Please reach out to me at andy@marriagekidsandmoney.com or leave me a voicemail at marriagekidsandmoney.com/voicemail. I would love to hear from you. Stories like this keep me motivated. It transitions really well from the conversation we had with John about making massive action throughout your life to build wealth for your family. Very cool. You'll find all the links and resources for today's show at marriagekidsandmoney.com/session80. If you've been enjoying this show for a little while, please do me a favor and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. I am shooting for my 100th review this month, and I could really use your support. I am nearly there. I've got 96 reviews. Can you help me get over the top today? I'd really appreciate it. Go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Apple Podcasts. If you are not into Apple, you could go to Stitcher. Stitcher is another great place to leave me a review and some support. So go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Stitcher. So again, marriagekidsandmoney.com/Apple Podcasts or marriagekidsandmoney.com/Stitcher. Thank you so much for considering it. These reviews really help not only motivate me, but it helps people to find the show and help me just continue doing what I'm doing. In the spirit of growth and inspiration, I'm going to end the show with a quote today from Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Take some massive action today and win for your family. Carpe diem.